In this video, we're going to show you how to install the alternator on your Volvo XC60 located under your hood. Now with the hood open, your battery is located on the driver's side of the engine compartment under these two covers here. Now go ahead and disconnect the battery. We're going to start on the back section here. There's a Phillips head screw portion right here. We want to go ahead and unlock this. So you're going to turn this counterclockwise. You're going to go ahead and lift up on this. And you can peel this back, giving you access to the ground terminal right here. Now I went ahead and I just plopped my screwdriver right on the top of this cover to kind of hold that over because it is attached to the rubber hood gasket here. Right here is a 10mm nut. I'm going to go ahead and use my 1/4-inch ratchet to go ahead and loosen that. You can use a wrench, you can use a gear wrench, whatever you want. Okay, loosen that. You can lift that up and tuck that off to the side. Next up, remove the air intake tube here. Now there's going to be two clamps holding this in place. There's one right here with a 7mm screw head on it. You can use a flathead or the 7mm socket. And if you follow this down to the throttle body down below, there's going to be another one down there. This one's easy to access. Just going to loosen it. You're not going to disconnect the entire clamp or unscrew the whole thing. Let's go ahead and get the lower one. Now we're going to use a long extension and our 8mm socket. Let's go ahead and loosen this. We're going to remove the 4 T25 Torx bit screws holding our air filter lid box in place. Pop that off, set that aside. And let's go ahead and pull out the air intake tube. Basically just gonna wiggle this around and pop it off of the throttle body down below. Pull that up and out. Now right above our throttle body, there's gonna be this component right here and is held in place just on a rubber grommet onto a clip. I'm gonna go ahead and spray that rubber grommet with some spray solvent and then grab this. I wanna disconnect that. Just grab that and pull that up and off. You want to reach down here underneath the intake and you're going to locate the throttle body. We want to disconnect this here. There's a bolt right here or a screw, and there's one over here, and then there's two on the bottom here and one over here. Now we're going to use our T30 Torx bit to go ahead and loosen these bolts. There's one of them there. Let's go ahead and do the other three. And we should be able to grab that throttle body, give that a little wiggle. There it is. And grab grab that and just rest that down out of the way. I want to go ahead and disconnect this connector right here. And there's going to be a little metal spring clip. If you push on it, you can actually see it sliding up and down. So we're going to push on that, and we need to disconnect this. So we're just going to reach down, hold that module that we just pulled off on that rubber grommet, and wiggle this connector off. There it is. So there's that little spring clip right here. You're just going to push on that and it releases the locking mechanism on that. Now on the bottom, there is a gray locking clip per se, and it has little textured lines on it. Now if you put your hand on it, you can feel the same textured lines on the other side. And if you pinch those, it's going to open that up. It's going to release the locking mechanism there. So you push on this side and on the other side and pull it away from that module. So there it is right there. You just push on these two tabs and then pull it out. So now we just have that module there that we had pulled out before. It's now floating. It's probably going to be attached to the backside of our intake. That's why we had to disconnect these two other components to it. Now on our intake manifold, if you follow down right on the center, it's going to bring us to these two connectors right here. I want to go ahead and disconnect these here. So there's a little tab right there you want to push in on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver. I'm going to push in on this right here. And pry that off. I don't want to pull on the wires at all. That's why I'm using the screwdriver to assist in popping that off. Now we have the connector right here. I'm going to transition into a pair of hose pliers here. And I want to pinch this tab on the front here and just gently wiggle this up and off, like so. Well, on the top of our intake, if you come back here, there's a vacuum hose and there's a soft trim here. I'm going to use my hose pliers. I'm going to gently pinch the plastic housing here and gently pull outward. So what I did is I popped that off, but this can be a little complicated. I push in on it, pinch, and then pull. And that should separate. Now if you follow it over to the left here, it goes into a little retainer. And you can pop that right off here like that. Set that off to the side. And on the bottom side of the engine here, we have the splash shield. There should be 8 T30 torque screws holding the splash shield to the bottom of the engine cradle. You want to get and loosen and remove these. Now if you just go around the perimeter, you're going to find all of these here. Ours is missing a majority of these here and only currently have 4 holding it in place. Once you remove all of these here, you can go ahead and take that cover and set it aside. Now we're going to access another connector on the lower portion of the intake. Now the connector is right here, and if you were to look at it from up above, this connector right here is going to be just below the other two that we disconnected. It's tough to get to up top. So from underneath, we're just going to reach up, pinch the little tab on the top of it, and undo that connector there. Now at the base of our intake manifold, in front of the oil pan, you're going to notice 2 8mm bolts right here. This secures the lower portion of the intake to the engine. So we're going to use our 8mm socket with our ratchet. And we want to loosen and remove these. If we get to a point, we could just spin those out by hand. Okay, let's go ahead and remove both of these, set those aside. Now before we unbolt our intake, it's always highly recommended to go ahead and use some compressed air and blow out around here, get rid of any dirt and debris. You don't want anything to fall down inside the engine when we disconnect the intake. So make sure you're wearing safety glasses. Now there's going to be 7 10mm bolts that run right across the top of the intake here. When doing this here, it's always recommended that you do this with the engine cool. On plastic intakes, I like to evenly loosen the bolts. Once they're all broken free and loose, I'm going to transition over to a power tool and go ahead and zip these out. Let's go ahead and disconnect this connector here to our fuel rail. I'm going to use a pair of hose pliers here. Gently pinch this tab. And then slide that off. I'll go ahead and separate the intake here. And at this point here, we just need to finagle this up and around. Just have to manipulate your AC hoses over here. We're pulling this up and out. There we go. Now I want to go ahead and disconnect the harnesses in and around the alternator here. I'm going to go ahead and jump over here to the coolant temp sensor because the wire harness runs across to it. So you're going to pinch on the tab on the top and pop that off. Now I'm going to pull this down, and there's another connector right here. Now I like to use a pocket screwdriver and press in on, there's a little notch on the top. You can press in on that. And normally it'll pop off. I'm going to use my hose pliers here. The little tip here will get in and release that. So I put my tip right inside here and just gently pinch down on that to release that. I'm going to use our 13mm socket to loosen the nut on the back side here. And go ahead and pull that wire harness off the back side. Go ahead and pop that off. Now our alternator is held in place by 4 bolts. There's 2 here. And then there's 2 on the bottom. Let's go ahead and get to those. I'm just going to pull our harness over. Use our 10mm socket. And get our 2 on the bottom. Pull those 2 bolts out, get the 2 top ones. All 4 of these bolts are all the same size, so you don't have to worry about what position they go in. Now, the alternator is placed onto guide pins that are on the engine block. And then over on this side here, there is a rubber belt. It's a coupler belt that joins the alternator to the other pulley shaft over here. Now, this normally isn't going to pop right out. We end up having to use a pry bar on something like this. So let's go ahead and grab that. I'm going to go ahead and use my mallet here. I'm not prying it out. I'm pretty much using the pry bar to rock the alternator off of those guide pins. And because it's aluminum, they get corroded with the steel guide pins. There it is. Go ahead and slide that up and out. I'm going to spray down these ports. Now on the new alternator, it's going to come with 1 guide pin on it. I went ahead and put some anti-seize compound on that pin. And let's go ahead and lower this down. Now as we line this up, we want to line up the pulley with the sleeve over here. Push that in to the rubber coupler here, the belt coupler, and then line up the alternator. Get the lower bolts in. All right, now that we have them all started, let's go ahead and zip those down. Torque down these bolts to 17 foot-pounds. Once it bottoms out, give it a little bit more. You do want to make sure it's tight, but not super tight. So once it bottoms out, just a tiny bit more. And then we can continue on to our harnesses here. And get our harness connected onto the back here. Line that up, push it on. You're going to feel it and hear it click into place. And then we have our temp sensor harness on the back here. Line that up and push that on. So we have the nut on here, harness. Take these wires here. These need to go to the front side of the intake, so we're going to tuck those off on the side here. Make sure we have access to them later. Now let's go ahead and install our intake. Just clean up around all these ports here, making sure that our gasket is going to have a good seal. We have some spray solvent on our rag. And go ahead and periodically just kind of flip that rag and put on some fresh solvent and clean this. And just continue this process for the other 3. Before installing your intake, go ahead and check those intake gaskets. Make sure that they are still in good shape and that they're sticking up beyond the plastic intake itself. If they seem like they're flush, you want to go ahead and replace these at this time. Ours is in good shape. Let's go ahead and drop our intake into position. Now that we have it dropped in, let's go ahead and get a couple of these bolts started. We're going to run these bolts down. We're not going to tighten them, we just want to bottom them out. Let's torque down our intake bolts to 12.5 foot-pounds. Install our fuel rail harness. Now from underneath, you're going to grab that connector, install that in over here, press it on. Now let's go ahead and install the 2 bolts on the lower portion of the intake. Just snug these down. Let's go ahead and install our lower splash shield. Go ahead and get that lined up. I'm going to go ahead and install one of the screws in the front here by hand, and then we'll put one in the back that'll hold it in place. These 2 will hold it up while we install the rest. Now there's going to be a total of 8. Go ahead and install all of them around the perimeter, and then we'll snug them down. All right, now that you have them all in, let's go ahead and snug them down. You just want to go ahead and snug these down gently. And just repeat this all the way around. And you're all set. Let's go ahead and install these 2 connectors here. here and feel that one connect. This one here goes just on the inside right here. Install this upper hose, line that up, and just push it on. You're gonna feel it and hear it lock. Give it a little tug, make sure it's locked into place, and then don't forget to secure that. Pop that on. We want to go ahead and install our throttle body next. You do want to make sure that the gasket itself is in good condition on the intake itself. Ours is in good shape. I'm going to go ahead and grab one of our screws here. Bring this up into position. Just want to get one of those started. Get the other ones lined up and started as well. Now we do want to make sure that our harnesses and everything that we need to install are not being pinched anywhere. Everything is perfect. So let's now go ahead and snug those screws down there. All right, once it bottoms out, that's good. I'm just going to do the same for the others. Here we go. I'm going to install our unit right here. Pushing this down onto that bracket. And we're going to install this lower hose there. I'm just going to line that up and it should push right on. There it is. You could hear it and feel it click into place. Then we have the electrical connector on the top here. Simply line that up. I'm going to push it down and then push in on that spring clip there. Be sure to tug on that electrical connector, make sure that it's locked into place. Go ahead and feed your air intake tube down in a position here. I want to get that onto our throttle body down below. Make sure you put your clamp on here. Let's go ahead and position our air filter lid in place here. All right, with that in position, let's go ahead and secure the screws on our lid box here. Now I'm just going to continue to secure the two back ones here. All right, with that secured, let's go ahead and get our intake hose clamp secured. And then just put your clip on there. Let's go ahead and secure the lower clamp. Go ahead and grab that ground terminal here. Go ahead and plug in your harness. You're going to feel it in here click into place. And then go ahead and drop that right down on top of that terminal. Make sure it's seated all the way down. Snug this down. I don't like to use power tools on batteries because these can strip or break. So once it bottoms out, not full quarter, but once again, make sure it's good and snug. Grab that terminal, give it a wiggle. It's nice and tight. Go ahead and grab your hood gasket and line this up and push it on. Make sure you feel and hear that clip into place. Push this over, line things up. Now on this side here, there's going to be two little tabs that go underneath the strut cover here. So you want to go ahead and interlock that into there first. Push it down and in. Get that gasket pressed in all the way over. Take your front cover. You have your mounting clips right here. They engage on the front side of the box here, but you have two on the back that need to go underneath. Slide that in, line this up, snap it on, you're going to hear it click and lock into place. Last thing you want to do is go ahead and take your Phillips head screwdriver. You want to go into the screw on the top and you're going to turn that clockwise until you feel that click in and you're secured. Grab the engine cover. Line up the oil fill cap with the center here, and this almost lines up perfect. Just push down, and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.